Slip here. How are we all doing? I'm back today with another video. So today in the lab we've got something a little bit different, and I thought I'd bring you in on what's happening. I wasn't going to record any of this, and I figured I will just see if I can cut it down just to the highlights, because I'm pretty sure most of you guys have seen this sort of stuff before. Today we've got a PlayStation 3. This one is a CECHC03. So that is an original backwards compatible launch model power version. And this particular one, I bought it just a couple of days ago, being sold as not working. And the guy I got it off said that it doesn't power on. The disk drive was faulty when it did power on, and it's basically just for spares. So that's the assumption I bought it under. So anyway, I got it home and plugged it all in, and this area here with the on and off switch and the eject button, the LED wasn't showing a red standby light. So I powered it, or he sold it with no cables, no controllers, said he didn't have any cables. So I tried just to press the button even though it wasn't illuminating, and to my surprise the machine started. It went to the XMB. Probably about a few minutes in, the fan ramped up, and then within about 5, 6, 7 minutes it was definitely ramped up at least 2 or 3 stages. I haven't got Webman installed on it, but my guess is it was about 38% fan, maybe more. I mean, it was sounding loud, so it definitely has some thermal problems. So I was thinking, well, you know, is it possible that they just assumed it wasn't working because there was no power light showing, which is a bit strange. But either way, I took it on board that obviously I was thinking, well, that's a result, at least it starts. Now my attention then went to the disk drive. So I ended up taking the disk drive apart last night. I didn't film any of it. And what I found in there, to my surprise, was this. It's on that, where it had been literally mashed up inside there. And it says on the front, not sure what this is, what it actually is. Maybe it's some kind of memory card, but it's got Nintendo written on it. So I guess somebody at some point has posted it through the the letterbox there, and it's got jammed up inside, and it was working occasionally, and other times it's got in the way and it stopped it working. So I removed this, I took it all apart, I cleaned the rails and the lens, re-greased things, put it all back together again, and now we've got a working Blu-ray drive that plays PS3 games and PS2 games. So that was a win there. So the next stage, oh, and I should have said as well, so I already had some spares, so I took this little control panel off and on, as I say, and the eject button. I took this off, disconnect the ribbon, and I put the replacement on there, and yeah, now I've got a standby light and I've got a green light. So 2 problems are now fixed. Next thing I need to do is take it all apart. I would normally just delid this to make life easier, but I don't like to delid unless I've tried just to give it a good clean first of all, and then to reapply thermal paste to the top of the heat sinks rather than delidding. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I thought I'd just bring you guys in and let you know what's happening, and then I'm just going to take all this apart and see how we go from there. It doesn't look like it's been cleaned in a long time, and interestingly as well, it had the firmware. I've now updated it to the latest firmware, and here we are in April 2024 and we're on version 4.91. When I plugged this in, it sounded like it had the old PlayStation sort of startup sequence noise. It sounded a little bit different to the one you more hear these days, and to my surprise, this version was on 2.42. I couldn't get the internet on it. Every time I tried to update it via my Ethernet cable, it was coming up with an error code. I can't remember what it was, it escapes me now. But I knew why it wouldn't let me do it, it's because it's not updated. Had a quick Google around, version 2.42 was out in apparently 2008. So this hasn't been updated in 16 years, which again is just a big surprise. So it is now updated and it's now holding the correct date and time. I'm going to check the CMOS battery. It was asking me for the date and time every time I power it off and power it back on again, but I think it's because I was taking the Blu-ray drive in and out, and I needed the Blu-ray drive working so I could do the firmware update. So that all appears to be now, everything seems to be okay, and I've had it running for a good, I don't know, 15 minutes at a time. I'm letting it cool down before I do things again. I do want to do the firmware update because, as I say, it's getting hot, and it's getting hot pretty quick, and it's definitely in need of some attention. You wouldn't be able to use it like this as it is now. But as I say, worst case scenario, I'll be deliding it. Best case scenario, I'm going to pull it all apart, clean it, and I'm going to replace the thermal paste just on top of the heat sinks for now. There's a couple of things I do along the way, so I will bring you back as and when. But in the meantime, as I say, this is all just a load of screws, so I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this a million times. So I will be taking things outside and dusting them as I go. So it had been open before, the warranty seal was missing, and I was assuming from that he meant that it had been opened up and somebody had been digging deep into this and at least replaced the thermal paste at some point or whatever. But at the moment, I mean, I've taken enough of these apart in the past to get more of an idea of what's what, and straight away I'm getting like the idea that the lid was taken off, but I believe it was only as far as the disk drive that was messed around with. I don't think anybody's been any deeper than this. I think I'll know more as I go, but the impression I'm getting already, just little things like this white seal here that hasn't been ripped off. Most people who take these apart, they just, as they go, just pull them apart. Same with this one here. This one hasn't been ripped either. I mean, it may be just somebody who's being careful. I tend to try and save them as I go. I don't like ripping them if I don't have to. But unless you do this a lot, the chances are you'll just, as you go, just pull things off and don't even really think about it until later. Also, I forgot to mention as well, on the disk drive, it had a bad bend in this bit here. Luckily, I had a replacement cover, and as it happens, since then I've actually managed to sort the other one out. But I just thought for speed, I'll just change it with this one. But this top part was very much bowed in, so the disc wasn't being able to come in and out either. That would have also been like hindering it. But it's just your standard backwards compatible disk drive. Well, now all seems to be working good. So yeah, as I say, just getting a little bit more suspicious that I don't think anybody's actually been below, but I'm going to know more when I get to the thermal paste, whether anybody's been in here fairly recently. Hard to tell at the minute, but just the first signs are making me think that. See, you can just take it all away like that in one piece to save ripping this tab, but as I say, most people will just take it apart in one go and just pull it apart and not think about it. It seems a shame to have to pull this apart, to be honest, but they all need maintenance now. When was it released? 2006. So they're all getting on pretty old now. It doesn't really matter with the screws and stuff, but I just like to keep mine together just so I remember where they go. But yeah, we'll find out what's down there. There is only one longer screw on these plates, and it's this one here in the top left corner. Let's get it out and show you. So this one here is a longer screw, and that's the only one that's long. Then we've got two smaller screws. So that one there is small, and that one there is small. And then the other ones are all the same size. There are markings, if you haven't taken one of these apart before, there are markings around the board, a little arrow, just to tell you where these go back in again, because some need to be like left open, like that one there, that one there, that one there. So they'll all be for the case screws. So, but these, as I say, actually let me get this one out so I can show you. So there are 3 different size screws for all this area. So that one there. So there's 2 of them, and then once again you've got the longer one, and all the rest are like this. Get this one out. Round. So after I've got all these out, I've then just got to take the hard drive door off and take the hard drive out, and then this whole unit will come away from this bottom housing. And then that's probably when I'm going to have to pause you and come back, because I want to get this outside and get it blown off with the air duster. I don't want any of that around in the house. Good, it's been a while. I'm not doing that many videos at the moment. I'm keeping busy. And I'm just having to consider when's the best time to turn the camera on and then do all my editing and stuff. So it's a lot of work. So I just thought with this one, I thought I'll bring you in to show you what I'm doing with it, because I don't know what's going to happen. Going into the unknown. In my head, when I bought it, I was thinking, well, it's good for spares no matter what happens. You know, power supply on it, but on its own. The disk drive, I can get it working. The fan inside it, the hard drive. So they're becoming more and more difficult to find at cheap money, and this is the first time I've actually had one of these at this kind of money in a long time. Generally these days you'll pick one up, possibly one with yellow light of death. In my opinion, not worth wasting your time with them. You will get them working again. Sometimes you might get lucky and they might stay working, but if you're buying it to get rid of it, you're kind of wasting your time really, because you'll probably get a phone call at some point saying it's broken, and you'll still be paying 30, 40, even more than that, just for a broken one. So I just don't bother with them. I used to do this a lot. As I say, it'd be good for spares. When this was a smoker, there's a little bit of yellow around here, possibly was. We'll see more when we look at the fan. And then all I do is grab it at the front, grab it at the back, and then just kind of pick at it until you've loosened it a bit if it hasn't been out for a while. Okay. Alright, you can see already it's been a while since this has been out. I mean, it's not terrible, but I've definitely seen better. But that's a good thing for me. The dirtier they are, the better. And then the case, again, definitely seen better days. Something loose in there as well. Let's just have a little look, see what that is. What I want to make sure is it's nothing important. Rattle. Fortunately, it's just a little bit of case plastic. If that had been a capacitor or something like that, that could have been an alarm bell, but no, happy days. Just a tiny little bit of plastic for someone off here probably. Yeah, next thing is I'm going to take this outside and give it a good once over, just to give it a good blast, just to get rid of the worst. And then see about taking the fan out, and I'll show you how I give them a good clean. Okay, I'll be right back. Dual cleaning done, as you'd expect. Quite a bit of dust come out of that. Happy just to do that outside, obviously. Just something else worth mentioning as well. This is the top cover. It's got the usual flap housing, SD card housing cover missing. Fortunately, I've got another one of those as well, so I'm going to try and change that over at some point. The one I've got has actually got a little crack in it, which is a bit disappointing, but at the same time it's better than not having one, I think. So I'm going to try and replace that. So that means taking the SD card reader out, and then there's a spring here to release that. I'll take a photograph of it just so I remember where it goes, and then yeah, see if I can swap it out. So yeah, that'll be something for later. So yeah, it's cleaned up quite alright. I mean, obviously it still needs a lot more work, but it's just gotten the major sort of dust stuff out of it. So I'm going to check this CMOS battery on here as well. So I'm just going to take this off now. So to get this off, you've got 3 clips on the back, and I think it's 2 on the top. So I'll just put the nail underneath, like that, like that. And if I can get this one, bit of a lift, and then across the top here there should be a couple more. Somewhere, there, this is it. Disconnect the fan. Gently wiggling and slightly pulling up. You don't want to be ripping off this connector off the motherboard. Chances are you probably wouldn't, but just a caution, you know, these things are old. So same with this one. Sometimes this will come up with the other one. So the mount that's on the board there, the little connector. So I try to put my thumb on it, or my fingernail, sorry, and then wiggle at the same time with the top part. And I'm just trying to grab the connector more than grab the wire. But yeah, these can be stubborn. Come up all together. I've had these where it's pulled the connector off the board, but it's just held in with 2 pins, so it's not too bad. I'm gonna get some tweezers on there, see if I can just give this a little bit of a helping hand. I'd rather it not come off if I can help it. There we go. And then to get this out, let's make sure we're on camera. Okay. If I remember rightly, it's been a while since I've done one. I think you just lift from the bottom and then pull back. That's it, like that. So it kind of goes in like that. And I'm going to put a meter across this in a little while. So this one is a CECHC03, which I'm assuming is 3 volts. It doesn't say it on there, but it's an original battery. So definitely need to check. But if this machine hasn't been used for a while, it may not be up to full charge. Still trying to get my head round. You know, I've seen machines that have had, you know, yellow light of death or whatever, been brought back to life, but no real effort from what I can see so far is that somebody's had this apart and resurrected it, shall we say. So I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, it's still baffling me though how this board, if it wasn't showing a light, would somebody not press the power button just to see? I mean, it's right there in front of you. Surely you're going to tap it, aren't you? I did. And obviously the disk drive had that, looks like a memory card or something, and it says Nintendo on it. At the moment it's saying that. Now, is it because I haven't got it on there good enough? If it's on there pretty good. Getting nothing through that at all. As I say, it could be because the machine hasn't been used for a while, so maybe it just needs to charge it up. But I think in the meantime, I've got another one somewhere that I have a donor board. Here it is. So let's have a look at the voltages on this one. I might just put this in, it doesn't really make any difference. I'd rather have one that's just working. Yeah, it's not a lot better. Charge up. This one was probably flat as well. I mean, these should be around 3 volts. It's not even making a volt at the moment. And once I've got this up and running again, I'll leave it running for a few hours. So we've got 3 screws that hold the fan in. And then we've got another 2 screws everyone forgets. It's these 2 here. And they're pretty small. Out, but I want to clean it, so I might as well just take it out now. So, looks to be the 19 blade fan, which is an original fan for this model. This one's already starting to peel back, which is handy. What I like to do with them is just to literally slowly pull this back without ripping it. You don't need to take it all the way off. You see down in there, that bearing? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some sewing machine oil, which is about as light as it gets. You don't need a lot. A little bit of sewing machine. Let me see if I can make sure I get this so you can see it. Don't need a lot. Need to flood it. Don't need to flood it at all. That's it, a couple of drops. Down again. Other screws everyone seems to forget about and forget to put back in again as well. So these ones up here, and the rest are all just a medium. Telling whether your console's been apart before. It runs all the way across here. It's attached to the plate. If that's ripped, then this has been apart before. This one hasn't. So again, it's another reassuring thing to know for me that somebody hasn't been in here before. I don't think, the same on here as well. You see that one there? But it's got no break in it. This one, you definitely have to break it. That'd definitely have to break for that to get off there. And again, there's not really, all the dust that's built up around it, I really think this hasn't been apart before, which is good news. The bad news, of course, is that these are going to be pretty solidly bonded to the heat sinks, so I'm not quite sure how well that's going to go just yet, getting this off, separating them. But obviously, first things first, we need to remove the clamps. And everyone's got their own way of doing it. Obviously, for me, I prefer to do them a little bit at a time. So I'm just going to do a couple of turns there, a couple of turns there, and so on. Just a couple of turns there. I'm just going to keep working my way around like this. A couple of flicks. These little white standoffs here, these press against the board, and the sandwich effect of the clamps will squeeze it all together and create a right amount of pressure between the heatsink and the die with the thermal paste. So people do put like cut down thermal pads, erasers. You have to be very accurate with the eraser. This is all engineered in a way that it's meant to be to tolerances. So in my opinion, you can't just go throwing whatever in there. You may get away with it, you may get lucky, but if you care about your console and if you care about the PlayStation in general, for me, I'd rather use the correct mod. Sony actually, in some of their consoles, I believe it was more in their refurbished consoles, they actually designed a piece of plastic that would fit into here. Basically it's a brace, so all it's doing is, go back to this again, so all it's doing is sitting in amongst these four standoffs. So I don't know if you can see there, those standoffs. So the brace, the bit that sticks up above onto the motherboard here. So where it sits into this little square here, the cell is behind, this is the cell at the back of it. So where it sits into this little square recess, it protrudes and sits on top of this motherboard, and all these little capacitors around it, it doesn't go near them. So it has to be engineered in a certain way where it doesn't touch anything around it. The rest of it that sits inside it, you know, obviously it's just to keep it central. So it's got like two parts to it. So the top part will sit on here, and then another part that's that sits inside the square to stop it moving about. But all it's doing is literally adding more of a brace, so it's more less deflection in the motherboard when it's all screwed down together. You can buy them on the internet. If you look around, you can find them. I think they're around about, I don't know, sort of £12–13 delivered. But obviously the bonus of buying one that's pre-manufactured to spec, obviously when they're 3D printed, you can't get the Sony ones. I've been taking this apart for quite some time, and I've never seen an official Sony one. I've seen pictures of it online, but you can buy ones that have been 3D printed and then sanded down. I personally think that's the better way to go. If it stays cool enough for long enough, I'll stick Webman on it and see what it's doing. If that doesn't work, then I'll see about putting a brace in there to see if that improves things. And if that doesn't work, then I'll be taking it apart again and deliding it. So we'll see how we go from there. I've got to try and see if I can get this heatsink away from the RSX and away from the cell. Again, it's just for me, just take it like with everything. I just take my time and just try and put less stress as possible on it all. And this is the main issue. These two pipes here, these two copper pipes, these heat pipes. We want to release this section here and this section underneath here away from heat sinks. So I'm just going to just tease it and see what happens, see if there's any give in it at all. Okay, so that side's come away pretty easy. This one's still on there, but I can see there's movement there. Got to remember the BGA, like the solder balls underneath the dies, you know, it's all fragile. The whole thing, it's old, you know, and you're pulling on something that's been together for nearly 20 years, and as you're manipulating it, if the thermal paste bond isn't broken, the only next thing to go after that is the solder balls. They could crack underneath the die. So this bit is what it's all about. You may get it back together again and it may be working, but you can have all sorts of issues, you know, especially like with graphical glitches. You could end up with yellow light death if you didn't have it already. There's probably I'm no major expert on these consoles, as you probably realised. I just know enough to know that this part here has to be done with caution, because all you are doing, as I say, is putting undue stress. Doesn't give way, then the next thing to give way is going to be something that's going to not be great. So I've definitely got the other one's definitely come away completely now. I've had consoles in the past, you know, you've taken them apart, they were working, you put them back together and they're not working, and then the thing on your mind is, what did I do? You know, what did I do wrong? What did I do differently? What was I not careful with? What did I just go, oh, that I have to do because I just can't get any further quickly? You know, most things people these days just want everything done fast. And this particular point in this particular project, as I say, this is the bit I like to take my time with. But it's not coming quickly. But this is about as much as I'd like to, about as much pressure as I'd like to give it. And that side is absolutely fine. Bend these pipes, that's the other thing. And obviously as this one has come away, now I've got this kind of flex in this housing, which makes it more difficult to get pressure on that. I can't just now lift from here, it's just going to bend all of that. So really now I'm literally governed from about here to here with any kind of pressure I can put on it. There we go. So it's come off now. So you see how I did it. I mean, I put my fingers underneath here, and basically I was using my knuckles as a fulcrum, just to sort of give it a little bit of push. But it's off now. Dried out, crusty thermal paste. In fact, yeah, I mean, the little bits come off on my thumb there, but it's completely added. So that's a good thing. Something else I like to do with these, just another little tip. We can see here where this old thermal paste is. For example, let me get my. And then this one here, and this one here, and this one here, and then the same with that one. We can see where the thermal paste finishes, where these edges of these. Let me put this down. I can show you. Yeah, we can see where the heat spreaders, the edges of those finish corresponding. It'll help if I bring it down a bit. Yeah, we can see on the heat spreaders here the corners of where the thermal paste was on the heatsink. What I do is I get a Stanley blade, a very thin blade, and then I mark those edges out before I clean up the thermal paste. So that then allows me to have a note of where I can see where I need to put the heat spreaders back on and where they should sit on here, because once I've cleaned all this off you're not going to know. So I just get a blade and I just cut an L shape into each corner on both spreaders, on both heat sinks. And as I say, it's just the way I do it. It's just for future for me. As I say, if I need to take this part apart again, all this will be gone, so this reference won't be there anymore. The new thermal paste that I put on here, if I have to take this apart again, it won't be as accurate as this, in my opinion, because this has been on here a long time. This has been on here, like say, nearly 20 years. It looks to be factory, so I'd assume that the new thermal paste, it won't be as an accurate place on here. So that's how I do it. So now I should be able to just take this other cover off, and we should be just having ourselves just a motherboard. Again, this will probably be a little bit tight as well. Out these two screws here, because if you don't take these out now, you won't be able to get this bit off. So again, just being very careful with it, just going around keeping this piece of plastic right close to the lip, and just gently, just tiny little bit of twist as I go. Don't need to give it a lot. Four or five thermal pads there, and then we've got another 5 smaller ones that go there, so they are slightly bigger than these ones. Any that aren't on here will be still on there. In fact, let me show you. One's there, and the smaller ones sit on those ones there, and we've still got those 3 down there still attached. But yeah, we're going to give us a good clean up. Hopefully I won't have to be back in here to delid it. If you are interested in how I delid, in case I don't have to do this one, if you are interested in how I delid the cell, which is the more difficult one, because this is actually bonded to the motherboard, to the die, sorry. So they've got thermal paste underneath this heat spreader, and then there's a line of glue some kind of glue that Sony put on there all the way around the perimeter of here. There is a gap, I think it's just here between these two, so you can theoretically get something in there to cut this away, but it has to be done in such a way that any mark, any scuff on the actual membrane of the cell the machine will be useless. So you can't just go hacking away at it. It has to be done precision, it has to be done accurately. Over the years I've destroyed a few when I was first learning. I ended up buying a tool to do the job, a proper tool to do the job. It was expensive, but for me, if I'm like now, if I need to take this apart, I've got no fear of how to get that off and to do it safely. This machine will not, in my opinion, I've never broken a machine with using the tool that I use. And as I say, if you're interested in more in that, there is a video on my channel of me cutting one of these away. Anyway, okay, so now we're down to the bare bones again. It does need a little dust off. And then I've got to do the markings on the heat sinks. We're doing is just cutting an L. So yeah, just going to pick the edge of it. Just enough so I can see when this is all cleaned up where this used to sit. Well, we're here now, we might as well do them all. Video. But unfortunately, it's a long job, so it's one of those ones I'll edit it down as much as I can, but I think there's some, important points to make about doing this kind of work. I don't know how other people do it. I have seen other tutorials. There's things that are better, things that are left out that I think should have been done, and we've all got opinions on things. As I say, I'm not the expert, but hopefully if you are considering doing this kind of job or just interested in what I'm doing, you can see there is a methodical approach and a respect that needs to be kept with doing this kind of thing, because they can break too easily, literally. And there's nothing, even with all the care in the world, this one could still break. So just to give yourself the best chance and keeping just one more of these machines alive, because they are going to become rarer and rarer. They are more in demand now, with a console like this that plays PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 1 games, well, all the PS3s do that, and obviously PS3 games. And if you buy yourself a PS5, then you can play PS4 games on that. So basically you've got, with two consoles, you can play every generation. Currently, right now in April 2024, you can play every single PlayStation game on two consoles. So they are becoming they are more in demand. Prices are rising, and as I say, finding them cheap working is a rarity as well. Just to touch a little bit on, in my opinion, I tell you what, I'm just going to go and grab my bin, and I can be cleaning up this heatsink while I'm talking to you about what I wanted to bring up. Won't be a sec. I was going to talk about a little bit more about yellow light of death. Oh, by the way, so I've got 99.9% IPA alcohol in here. Yeah, so I was going to talk about yellow light of death. So anybody who doesn't know what that is, basically the PlayStation 3, when it starts up, it has to go through a startup sequence. And if it finds any errors, then it won't power up, and it will just show red light. Well, it'll go green, then it'll go yellow, and then it'll go red, and it'll just sit there flashing, beep a couple of times. So if you looked around on the internet or on YouTube or wherever, There are ways of getting the console to restart involving heat, but to find a console like this one that's not actually been opened before, I can't say for sure whether this has had yellow light of death before, but the chances are slimmer due to the fact that, in my opinion, that it hasn't been opened already and at least had what I'm doing now done to it. I'm just getting rid of the worst with these cotton buds first of all. The way to correctly sort of diagnose yellow light of death will be to getting into the system syscon logs, and that will involve a couple of wires to certain points on the motherboard, and then from that it will bring up a, if you connect that then to your to your PC, you can then tap into the system logs and it will show the last 10 faults that the computer had. I think it's 10. It's not the kind of work that I do, but I don't deal with consoles that have had yellow light of death. I won't buy one that's already broken. In my experience in the past, they will just break again at some point. You may get lucky. There are people out there that I'm sure are going to say, well, that's rubbish because mine had yellow light of death and I heated it up and did this, did that, and mine's been fine ever since. And sure, that can obviously can work because, you know, there's definitely different scenarios, but for me personally, I wouldn't be interested in getting involved with a computer that's had yellow light of death unless I'm prepared to then connect it up to find out what's wrong with it and then actually fix the actual problem that caused the yellow light of death in the first place. There's plenty of information about this on the internet, so if it's something that you're interested in finding out more about, definitely worth educating yourself. About that problem, because it's one of the most common, from what I've seen, one of the most common problems that these consoles get, and they literally eventually they all get them, and they weren't designed, like most things, to carry on for this long. You know, when the PlayStation 4 came out, you know, why else would they manufacture them in such a way? Obviously, other than to be the throwaway society that we are, I don't think anybody imagined that they would still be around all these years later. But with careful maintenance, preventative maintenance, they can live on. I think probably one of the biggest causes is dust. You know, they just clog up eventually and they can't breathe. Just going to bring this a bit closer now. I don't know if we can catch them on camera now. You can see there the little score mark that I've made on it. So on the top left there, top right. If I have to delid this at a later date, I can see where these heat spreaders sit, because if you take them off here, you then obviously have to then flip them upside down and mount them onto here. But today I'm hoping I can get away with doing what I'm doing. Next thing I'll be doing is the well, it's now more commonly known as the eraser mod, but I won't be using an eraser and I won't be using thermal pads. I'm going to use a proper brace to do that. May not need to do it, but at the moment this machine is getting hot pretty quick. In my experience, you know, the first fan ramp should be after sort of somewhere between 6 to 10 minutes, and it should stay there for a very long time. This console with under 10 minutes is getting up to temperature very hot very quickly. Whether this is going to do it, I doubt it. It may do. It's definitely the first port of call, and it's something that's got to be done anyway. Worst case scenario, all I'm really wasting is a bit of thermal paste and a bit of time, but delidding is definitely a last option for me. It's not really the best thing to be doing. I won't just go ahead and do it on a console that's not broken. If it's just overheating, then this could possibly help it, maybe even fix it completely, and give somebody else a bit of enjoyment out of it. If I put Webman on there, you know, if I modify it, I normally use hen. The thing about Webman is it's a bit like, again, a bit like a motor vehicle. It will give you the almost like the mileage of the system, so you can actually see how many days the console has been running for in its lifetime, how many times it's been powered on. Sometimes if it hasn't been powered on, powered off correctly. There'll be a discrepancy of how many times it's been powered on, how many times it's been powered off. And that's just due to power cuts or people just flicking the switch at the back rather than actually powering it down properly, I think. So that percentage has to be taken into account as well. I've seen consoles anywhere from sort of 350 to 400 days at the highest, and then all the way down to sort of 8 days where they just haven't been used. So yeah, it's luck of the draw, but always an exciting part of going through all the effort to put custom firmware on there. You actually find that out as well. Be interesting to know how many days this one's been on for. Okay, so the next thing we've got to do is I'm going to have to clean up these ones here. So let's get that prepared and I'll be right back. First thing I like to do is just go around the outside of both heat spreaders and take away all of the more clumped dried thermal paste with a dry Q-tip. I don't put any alcohol on here to begin with. There's no real need for that, so I'll just go around and get rid of all the thermal paste. And then do the top. A bit of tissue there and then just rub the top of it. Break that off and then just do another one. Clean. You should be able to read what's on the actual finish off the edges as well. Just going to get a Q-tip this time. I'm going to put alcohol on it. The capacitors and tiny little components all the way around near where I'm working, so just keep it. Still got that fan to look at as well. I'll definitely do something with that. If I can catch this in the right light, yeah, so you can see there, you should be able to read what's on it. You know it's clean enough then. There shouldn't be anything left on the tissue either. Paste there, just drop down, just give it a ring. So if we have a look down there, as well. A little bit on that one there, couldn't see it, it was at the back. I might as well have that as well while we're at it. Oh, that's all prepared now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on with the board. These thermal pads here, they're on here. They're still quite supple. I can feel that there's still a bit of tackiness to them. So I'm not going to replace those today. Peel these off. If I try and scrape these off from here, I'll probably get away with it because they're still quite supple. If they're rock hard, then generally it's not going to be, they'll probably break, they'll probably split. I do keep other ones in stock, but if they're still tacky, then I'm going to just reuse these. These ones, again, nice and tacky, but they come off a little easier because of these little dimples. So I'm just going to set these ones where they should be going on the board here. So we've got, I'll just put them on there and I'll bring the board up so we'll see what I've done. And these ones are already on there, so that's all good. And then the other 5, they will just sit back on there again. So that's all done. So as you can see there, it's pretty filthy. They all are, if it hasn't been cleaned. This one isn't too bad considering, but you can see that it's not looking great. So to begin with, I'll just get a brush. Let's see if I can get this, let me see a bit better. I'll just get a brush over the top of the bin or whatever, and then literally just go get the worst off with the brush. Just one fin at a time. That's going to take a bit longer. About what's the best fan. A lot of people will say this is the best fan. A lot of people say this is a noisier fan. For me, it's all about cooling. So if this is the better one for cooling, I don't know myself, but if they say this one is, then I'd rather have this one in here and put up with a tiny little bit more noise. Because if you're running this, if you were to run this on custom firmware anyway, you can control the fan speed, which is obviously a major plus. I normally have mine set at 32%. I normally let the console, I want to turn it on. When I turn it on, I normally let it run for a minute or two. A little bit like a car, you know, let it warm up before you drive it. Let it run for a minute or two, and then I'll turn the fan speed up for gaming. And you can also have like in the top corner of the screen, you can have a monitor showing what the temperatures of the CPU and the GPU are at, or cell and RSX, so you can keep an eye on it, which is another nice touch. Okay, so that's the worst off, and you can see already big improvement. It depends how far you want to go with it. I will do a little more. Obviously we've already put the oil, put a little bit. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a cotton bud with some alcohol on it, and I'm just going to individually do each fin. I'll do a couple to show you, and then I'll bring you back. So just get that, and then it's the other thing as well. Just getting 4 or 5 together like that in a big clump, and then spraying a lot of them to save yourself on this, you know, save yourself keep having to buy alcohol, because you're going to use this lot easy, both sides of it. So I'll just get go over each fin. Too much, because we'll do them again. We'll do that again afterwards, but from the other way, sort of in there. It's coming off, but yeah, it's going to get dirty again anyway. This is just because it's out, and you know, if I've got to open this console again, then I won't have to do this next time. And if I end up selling it, then it's just nice for the new owner to know it's done. Minutes to do this. So what I'll do is I won't bore you anymore with it. I'll bring you back after I give this a bit of a clean. You haven't got to eat your dinner off it. It ain't got to be that clean, but it's definitely an improvement. Just a few minutes. Again, everyone's got their own way of doing things. Some people will apply thermal paste with just a big blob on each one. Other people do like a grain, so they'll run it sideways or do an X, or all sorts of ways of doing it. The way I like to do it is I will put a line of thermal paste down that edge and down that edge, and then I'm going to spread it across, just so I know that the whole thing is covered. It's quite a large area. It's not like it's a little CPU die or whatever. It's pretty big area. So for me, I just like to make sure that it's all spread. This is my way. It's not necessarily the right way. It's just the way I like to do it. I'll just start with that amount. Fold of it. Too close to the edge, because it will, when it all squeezes up, it will push out anyway. A little dollop in the middle at the end. I can be sure that it's actually got to the sides. If it doesn't fix it, I need it to be cool enough for long enough for me to be able to put custom firmware on it without it being running red hot. So if I can get enough of that out of it to do that, so then I can monitor what the temperatures actually are, this would be fine. But there's a good chance I'll be taking this apart again and all this will be wiped off anyway, so. Being okay, then I might as well do it to a standard of where I feel like it's going to be good enough just to leave it well alone. Right, so that's pretty much what I'm looking for. Bit of a gap all the way around. And then, as I say, all I do then is in the middle of each one, I just put a little blob. Turned into a longer video, but I hope you guys are enjoying it and maybe learning something along the way if this is your kind of thing, or even if you've never seen one of these machines before, maybe you'll just find it interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into here. So this way, yeah, just so if I can show you that. Like that, and then I can turn it around. We'll put it into there. Have a shield, should we call it? You see here it's got these heads on it. Take these off and put them straight directly to the board. It's a bit of a clean up. Can't leave that like that. They sit on the board. There's like a printed on the circuit board here. There's like these kind of like rectangular, squarey rectangular things. So we want to put them back onto there. Again, because I want to see how it behaves without the, I'm going to keep calling it the eraser mod, because you know it's what's more commonly known as, but I won't be using an eraser and I won't be using thermal pads. It sits in there, but for now, because I just want to see if I can get it cooled down enough to be able to at least put custom firmware on it, I'm just going to put it back on as it is for now. So at the back here we've got these slots, 4 of them, and they correspond with these little tabs. There's another one somewhere there. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So you just kind of offer it up, and then you can just bring that down on top of it like that. I also, while I was doing it, I did check to make sure the South Bridge and the other processor had their thermal pads on there, and they look good and they look square, so that's fine. So the next thing to do is to put the clamps back on again, and it's much, for me, it's much the same as the removal. I'm just going to put these on top like that. Central as well. You don't want too much of it sticking one way. You don't want it to be over the top of this either. They've got to be sitting in there with the same amount of gap at the end on each side, so that will need to come up a bit. So to begin with, I just literally start one off like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger here and I'm going to press down on that just a little bit, just to keep it in place, and then just do a couple of turns on that one. Just making sure it's central. Cross. So it's being, the pressure's being applied, distributed evenly as it's getting tighter. You probably find, obviously, that some screws are going to end up getting tighter quicker than the others, but this for me is the most surefire way of making sure that it's as even as I can possibly get it, rather than just screwing one all the way down then the other one. couple of turns left in it. That one's tight now. That one went down better than that one. Right, that's it, all done. Fan's got to go back in. This one has got a locating square, which is that one. All the rest are round. And the square goes onto that little latch there. So this little clip thing. That everyone seems to forget about. Now the machines that I pulled apart found these missing. And obviously when it's all back together then it's too late, isn't it? Put it down there first, so it's downwards, and then push down. And obviously we've got to put the multi-plug back in. I like the bottom of the case, bit of a clean. It's come up really well. And my eyes are everywhere at the moment, just making sure I haven't left anything out. It's easily done. So to put this back in, what I tend to do is I get the back lined up. So drop in sides at the back. Just make sure it's all down. The only ones that you want to avoid right at this point are the two in the bottom right corner, these two here, because the stand's going to go there for the on and off switch. I think I'm going to pause you here. You don't need to see me screwing this all back together again. So I'm going to reassemble it a bit more, and I'll be bringing you back. Hard drive back in. Again, going to give it a little wipe over before I do. I think it's now I've looked to the inside, I'm not so convinced that it's had, been in smokehouse. I think this might just be dirt, just be dust, and it is. First impression, I thought it had been around a smoker, but it's not. Yeah, it's come up nice. Just goes back in here. So what we do is push it in, and then there's like a swing arm here. So should be able to just put that in on that. So it's in and then to the left. And there's a little retaining screw here. To put that back in. Again, don't need to over tighten it. it's just there to locate. Up has got some dirt on it or whatever, so it just all needs just a quick going over. Just hope it help improve the entire look. Well, where it all accumulates. Power supply. Got two prongs stick up on the left hand side here, and you have to push it down. I think that's the Wi-Fi antennae. I've got the front here for the power supply, and then we've got with the screws that I put the plate down with, I just sort of did that corner, that corner, that corner, that corner, just moved my way around. Again, not sure if it makes any difference, just everyone's got their own ways, haven't they? Force of habit, probably. This power cable at the back here, there's a little clip you can put it under into the housing. So I'll just show you. It just goes underneath there. So you just clip it underneath that and that one. Again, I think it's something to do with the Wi-Fi. But again, quite a lot of dirt, dust on it. So give that a quick wipe off. This one here first. Latch down to secure it, and offer that into this little locating lug there, and then that will sit it down, and then this one goes into here. But before we do that, actually, let's put this cable back on. Little upright post. Hard to see, so you don't want to force it. It will just, you'll just feel it when it goes. I could feel it was getting closer. And then this one goes into here. Again, push it down and then secure it down with the brown tab. And there's 4 screws that hold this down. Testing it again. Get enough out of it now just to be able to put custom firmware on it, and then I can actually see what the temperatures are doing, and then decide from there what's the best route to go. If you guys are possibly interested in a delid video, if that's what is required, or if one comes up in the future, do leave something in the comments about it. You know, if you want to see how I delid these. We'll skip all the dismantling and get straight down to the delidding. It does take some time to do it properly and carefully as you can. But if it's something you might be interested in seeing at a later date, or with this one if it needs it, please do let me know. And yeah, appreciate anyone that's been following along. Trying to keep my channel as varied as possible. I don't record everything I do. I'm always seem to be fixing something. But when I think it'll make a nice video, I'll always take the time out to record it and then edit it and then upload it for you guys. So yeah, you just have to push it down into the little connector there, and then there's a couple of little posts that stick up, to locate this onto that little stand, and then a couple of screws to hold it down. These always seem to be tight. I always give them a bit of a wiggle, but just see if I can get them started any better, but they always seem to be tight for me. It's interesting that this, I've never seen one of these broken before, the LEDs being out like that. Still, we're learning all the time. Okay, so that's in. And now the disk drive. I mean, these flaps here, they're notorious, these clasps, they're notorious for breaking. You need to be really careful with them, and at least try and get 2 of your nails underneath it on the first initial. If this has never been taken apart before, if the disk drive's never been out, you'll find that that clamp is pretty on there. So as I say, I would just take your time with it. You don't want to break it. If that snaps, it's doable. You can still get round it by bodging, shall we say, but in an ideal world you don't want to do that. So just be careful with this clamp. You'll know when the ribbon cable's in there, because there'll be an even amount of blue, and there's a black line on it as well. So you want all that to look even and straight. And then this just sits down here. That post goes into this little indent, and that one goes into that one. Then we've got a multi-plug down here. And then that just calls up on itself. Back on the bench, we've got our Ethernet HDMI power cable plugged in. Always the most nerve-wracking time when you've had one of these things apart, to make sure that it's actually turns on again will be a result. So let's see what happens. So far so good. We haven't got yellow light. Have we got a picture on the screen? It's asking me for the date and time. And I'm pretty sure that's just because of the CMOS battery hasn't got a lot of charge in it. So hopefully that will charge up the more I use it. The top right there, that the date and time has been reset. So let's see if we can. Daylight savings should be on. That's better. In here, it's been running 2 minutes so far. Going to see how it is, and I'll bring you back after 10 minutes has elapsed with an update. Okay, won't be long. Alright guys, so back with a bit of an update. So we're about 15 minutes later. After 6 or 7 minutes, the fan ramped up to its first stage. 2 or 3 minutes later it went again to the next one. And then about 3 or 4 minutes after that it went to the next one. So it's still not right. It's probably 50% better than what it was, because it was getting very hot. The fans were getting very fast, very quick, well with under 10 minutes. Probably 6 or 7 minutes it was getting hot very quick. So reduced it enough now, I feel, to be able to put custom firmware on it. We're still running okay. So that's going to be my next job. The next thing I'm going to do is do custom firmware and have a look at the temperatures, and that'll be the last part to this video. The next time I'm going to make a part 2 to this video. I'm going to do the eraser mod, as I said, as it's more commonly known. I'm going to be using it with a custom made one, not some eraser that's been cut down or thermal pads, an actual proper bespoke one, and we can talk about that a bit more in the next video. So I'm going to be right back after I have installed custom firmware on this one. It's going to take me some time, so I'll do that, and we'll come back and we'll have some benchmark thermals to go with, and we'll see what difference the eraser mod makes in the next video. And if that doesn't improve things enough, then it'll be a delid. So yeah, I'll install custom firmware and we'll get some benchmarks on some temperatures, and then we'll leave this video. Okay guys, I'll be right back. Okay guys, back for the final part of this video. We are now 37 minutes in since I turned this on. I've just installed Hen and Webman, so this will be the first time looking at the temperatures and also how many days this machine has been on in its lifetime. So yeah, exciting stuff. On a side note, this little side monitor that I use here is very handy. If you're looking for a monitor, this one plays DVDs. I've got my Amazon box wired up to it. I've got HDMI leads. I've got, for older computers, it takes compositive, it takes SCART. It's yeah, it's not a bad little screen. It's about, I think it's 14-16 inch maybe. That's the one I use for editing, and then I use this one over here for side editing and for testing. Anyway, let's find out what's happening. So if we go into Webman games, and we can find out for the first time what our temperatures are saying. I'm expecting high. Fan sounds pretty quick. Interesting. So straight off the bat, we've got CPU at 71, which you would expect for it to be holding it there, and the RSX is at 53. So it's really the CPU that seems to have the problem, which is kind of good news, because I don't like messing around with the RSX. Far too many problems with that that can happen from delidding with the RSX, more so than the CPU, in my opinion, if you're using the right tools. So at the moment, let's have a little look here then. So if we go into, so I'm just trying to hold the camera as well as navigate. If we stick it onto CECHC03, because I've literally just turned this on, so let's save it on CECHC03, and we can also have a quick look to see how many days. What are we saying? I'm going to guess at 150 days, somewhere in the middle. Okay, it's got a lot of off and ons, but we've got a 9-day console here, which is as good as my own personal one. In fact, it's less. I think my own personal one started with 8 days, and now it's got like 13 on it. I don't use it that often, but it's very clean. As I say, there's a lot of on and off counts on this that are discrepancy, 391. But overall usage of this machine is only 9 days. Which is a big plus, a very big plus. I don't often see them like that. I mean, I think for a long time the best I've seen was 25, 27 days, something like that. And then I came across the one I have now that I use myself, which was 8 days. This is the only second time that I've seen one under 10 days. So yeah, really good. So, next project is to get that 71 down. And we want it somewhere around 60, maybe late 50s if possible, but 60 I'll be very happy with. So my next in fact, let's load up this thing here. I can show you what this does as well. So if we just put it somewhere safe, so on game settings, if we hold start and select at the same time and wait for the beep, and that means that'll stay there now, flash every now and again, an update. There we go. So now we can see when we're playing the game that our fan is only at 35%, which is good. I was expecting more, to be honest. I thought it was well into its 40s, but it's having to hold 35% to keep that at 71 degrees, and we're not even playing the game. The cover's not on it, so it's still not right. So the next thing I'm going to try to do is the eraser mod, but with an actual proper 3D printed proper CPU brace. It's not designed to put extra pressure on it. What it's designed to do is to support the 4 standoffs that are already on there. So that'll be for the next video, and we'll see if we can improve on that. It says we've been started up 6 minutes on Hen with Webman. So if we put that to the timer that I was running from the moment we first turned it on, we're looking at around about 40 odd minutes. So this is our benchmark to try and improve on that. The RSX, really happy with that, considering we've only used MX2. We're still running the original thermal paste from the factory. So on the basis of that, I'm going to leave that one well alone. I'd be more than happy with that. Even if it was at 32% and the RSX is idling at 55, 56. If the fan was at 32% and the RSX was on that sort of temperature, I'd be happy with that as well. So it's really the CPU that's causing my concern, and it's causing the fan to ramp up in such a way. The RSX is definitely not a problem here. So we will try the CPU brace on the next video, and if that doesn't work, we will delid the CPU, and then we will hopefully rectify the whole thing doing that. I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Thank you so much for anyone that's supporting the cause. Anyone that's here for the first time, welcome. Anyone that's subscribed already, really truly appreciate it all. It keeps me positive and wanting me to make more videos. If you get the time, please do look at my other videos, and if you enjoyed this video, please do give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. I was in two minds whether to or not, and I thought, no, I think this would be a good video to put out there for anyone who might be interested. Anyway guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Whatever you do, take care out there, and I will catch you on the next video. Thanks very much for watching. See you on the next one.